And so many people had called my attention that we should have had Cindy as a speaker this evening. So we've asked her to be both a speaker and a moderator, and hopefully that'll work out well for her. We know it'll work out great for us. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you very much. Michelle, we're both short, so we'll deal with this. Good evening and welcome to the Prince William Committee of 100. It's a pleasure to be here. I think we're covering a very interesting topic. I think it's a topic that a lot of Prince William people who aren't here. Okay. Stay close. Okay. Thank you. But I do wish that the information that we pass on to you tonight will be helpful in understanding the housing market and maybe even give some new ideas as to how the housing market's improving. As I told several members, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it is not a train. There is light, and things are improving, and we will go forward forever, okay? A couple of things. Our speakers this evening are obviously a lot of experts. We're going to get right to it. I'd like to read their bios, your speakers for this evening, and then make a short set of remarks, and then we'll go on with each speaker speaking individually, if that's agreeable to everybody. Our first speaker this evening is it? There it is. Okay, our first speaker that will be talking this evening is Chris Martino. Was appointed Finance Director in February of 1996. Prior to joining the county, Mr. Martino served as Comptroller of the City of Rye, New York, for 8 years. Mr. Martino's professional experience also includes serving as Deputy Commissioner of Finance for the City of White Plains, New York, and working as an auditor for Ernst & Whitney, Texaco, Inc. Mr. Martino is a certified public accountant, certified government financial manager. He holds a bachelor's degree in accounting from Franklin Marshall College and a master's of business administration and finance from the Stern School of Business of New York University. And we also have this evening Martin Briley, Prince William County Economic Development. Martin Briley has 25 years of experience in national and international business development and management. Since April of 1997, he has been the Executive Director of the Prince William County Department of Economic Development and responsible to attract investment from technology companies, which has risen from an annual average of $20 million per year to $2.87 billion during the past 10 years. We also have with us this evening Larry Laws, Executive Director and founder of First Home Alliance. Larry Laws' vision to enhance community self-sufficiency and quality of life through home ownership was rooted in his childhood experiences. He was born in 1962 in the small town of Camden, Arkansas, to the late Willie Laws and Addie Gordon Laws. His family never owned a home when he was growing up. He lived in rental properties during his entire childhood, first in a 2-bedroom single-family dwelling and then in government-assisted public housing, the projects. His father, a sharecropper, was disabled in his early 50s and died when Larry was in the 10th grade. His mother, a domestic worker, finally at the age of 65, was able to purchase a residence in 1989 using the USDA 504 program. She only lived there for 8 years before her death in 1997. Larry, a disabled American veteran, joined the United States Army just 4 days after his 18th birthday in September of 1980. He intended to travel and attain a level of maturity and secure the funds necessary to pursue a college education. Larry eventually received his bachelor's degree in business management from Maryland University and his master's degree in business administration from Troy State University while on active duty. After 24 years of military service, he founded and established the nonprofit organization First Home Alliance in the Commonwealth of Virginia in 2004. We also have with us Lawrence Hughes, City Manager of Manassas. Larry Hughes has been City Manager of Manassas since 1999. His tenure has been focused on major community-level projects, economic development, and financial management. The completion of the City Square project was an early success. City Square includes Loy Harris Pavilion, a walkway along the railroad, and the reuse of the Hopkins Candy Factory as a center for the arts. The city has developed an award-winning neighborhood services program that features partnerships between neighborhoods and the city to engage neighbors and volunteers in neighborhood improvement projects. As Deputy County Executive in Prince William County, Mr. Hughes was Chief of Staff and responsible for the management and coordination of day-to-day government operations and for the coordination of corporate policy development. He served as acting county executive in 1996 through 97. And during that period, the economic development program was completely restructured and energized. A 500-acre high-tech biomed park was acquired adjacent to George Mason University. The first 5-year budget plan and revenue sharing agreement was adopted by the county and the schools division. Mr. Hughes has more than 35 years of local government experience, including 10 years as budget director of Richmond, Virginia, assistant to the budget director in Metropolitan-Dade County, Florida, and assistant to the development director in Kansas City, Missouri. As you can see, we have very well-suited speakers for the topics this evening. I'm here to learn as well. But I'd like to start off with a couple of things about the housing market from the realtor's perspective. In looking statistically through our multiple listing system, a couple of statistics that I think you'll be interested in, and this is through December, this would be for 2008. According to our multiple listing system, the average sales price in 2007 was $339,673. The average sales price for 2008 is $210,511. The difference is approximately 38%. If you go back the past 3 years, you'll see that it's been within 30 to 35% all 3 years. Now we can all add those numbers up and see over 3 years, it's been almost 100% change, hasn't it? The total volume sold, in 2007 was 132 million. The total volume in 2008 is 180 million. The difference is the numbers of units. Total units in 2007, that means total houses sold, whether they're townhouses, condos, or single family, was 388 total. But for 2008, total units sold is 859. So looking at the volume and the average sales price, as you can see, many more properties sold. Days on market, in 2007 was 136, and in 2008 it was 106. And we're tracking around 100 days right now so far for the month of January. And the average listing price for sold properties was $384,000 in 2007, and in 2008 it's $234,000, a difference of 39%. So you can see the change not only in the sold price but also in the listing price. Currently there are over 4,500 listings in our multiple listing system. Obviously the majority are foreclosures and short sales. For definition purposes, we all know what a foreclosure is. That's when the bank takes over the property. But a short sale, you need to understand that that's when the seller is selling the house for less than what they owe. So if somebody currently has a mortgage for $300,000 on a property, but they can only sell it for $200,000, then you're looking at the bank taking a hit of $100,000. While you may think that's impossible, that's what's happening. Short sales are definitely happening. We're closing short sales, but then there's the bigger picture. What happens to that $100,000? And that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. Banks are having to forgive part of it, and then in some cases they're turning a portion of that $100,000 into a personal loan for the seller. So it doesn't automatically just go away. It takes a great deal of time to handle a short sale, because some banks, depending upon who your mortgage is with, we all know what's happening. Mortgage companies are going out of business. Banks are buying up other banks. So while you may think your mortgage is with First Home Alliance, and then they purchase a bank called ABC Bank, and now who does my mortgage go to? I've always written my check to ABC Mortgage. It's difficult to find out where those loans are being held. That's probably our most frustrating, biggest problem in the realtor world, is finding out who's really holding that mortgage. It doesn't matter who you write your check to, because there are servicing companies that are handling the mortgage payments. The short sales are happening also in life, whatever that may be. So that, just some of the basic statistics. There's a great deal mentioned about subprime loans being the problem in Prince William County. Those are the loans given to people who maybe didn't have a job, no income, but we want everybody to own a home, so let's just make it possible for everybody to have a house. The trend now is, gee, you have to have a job and you have to have income. So when people look to blame the banks because they've changed the programs, this is reality. You have to have a job to be able to have shelter. And just a few years ago, that was not the case. So that is a portion of our foreclosures, but that is not the biggest portion of our foreclosures. The normal loan, what we call normal loans, you had people buying in the frenzy of the market and spending more than they should have been spending on a house. People got into the bidding wars of just paying these inflated prices. We knew that wasn't reality, but it definitely was a frenzy. Don't want to really see that market come back again. That was not a fun time. Prince William County is a special county. It has lots of services. We who work as realtors in Prince William County, we believe in Prince William County. We live here. We like to sell Prince William County, but obviously we have some challenges ahead of us. And tonight we're going to get some answers to that. So I think tonight we'll start with Chris, if you would like to come up and speak, and we'll take questions at the end.
Good evening, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak with you tonight. I hope I have some good information to share with you about the market here in Prince William County and our view of it from within the county government. It's very challenging, to say the least. And I think some of the numbers I'm going to share with you tonight will bear that out, and they're consistent with the numbers that you just heard about a moment ago in terms of sale volumes and sale prices. But I would like to start in a moment. Okay. There we go. He's going to punch the button there as we go along. He's an all-star track coach too, by the way. Let me start with a look at the real estate values, the history of real estate values in Prince William County. You can see it's anything but smooth and predictable over time. We're in the middle of a very difficult market now, but it's not the first time. You can see back in the early 80s, we enjoyed a very strong market, and then it crashed very quickly overnight. That recovery happened rather quickly, and then we get to the early 90s, and you can see the same experience once again. Now, the experience through the 90s was very different, and throughout the 20th century, whenever there was a recession, it was a very sharp drop and then a very quick recovery. In the 90s, it was very different. and you can see it took us the entire decade to recover. It wasn't until 1999, 2000 timeframe where our land book in the county, that's our taxable values, increased to the level they were at 1992, 1991. So it was a very difficult period of time, and resources were difficult to come by. So we tried to learn from that, and as we saw the increases that beginning in 2001, at every point along the way, we never forecasted that the market would continue to increase. We always had the market coming back to the long-term average that we're showing here. Over time, real estate's general rule that we use is that the real estate values will appreciate by inflation and then plus a margin, usually plus or minus 1%, not minus plus. And if you could straighten out that blue line, you'd probably get you would get the line right here, which mirrors the inflation rate. And so we kept coming back to that long-term trend. Unfortunately, the market kept going higher and higher, and now we find ourselves where we are. We're down nearly 50% from the beginning of 2006. And we're looking for the values in Prince William County to decrease another 10% this year during calendar 2009, and then another 5% in 2010. Some of the reasoning behind that is because, and we can say that now, is because we know the inventory of unsold units on the market, and we know the inventory of foreclosed units, and we know there are more coming through the pipeline. So it's going to take some time for the market to absorb all of these units, whether they are in foreclosure or not. Our next slide, thank you, points to some of the, it's very simplified, but points to some of what was occurring that drove that market to the height it was and now to the crash that we're experiencing. Another rule of thumb over time is that you can afford 2.5 to 3 times household income. That's the value of the house that you can afford. And you can see back here at the beginning of this decade, that's where we were. We were in affordable range. And then as the credit markets, through their creativity and innovation, and some might call it something else, kind of threw traditional underwriting out the window, folks were getting in over their heads. And you heard that a minute ago also. So that by the peak here in 2005, 2006, we were almost at 5 times household income. Folks couldn't carry those mortgages. And they were all, not all, but quite a few of them were adjustable rates. And as soon as they reset the first time, folks were in over their heads and they had to fall into foreclosure. Now, we're back to where we should be. We're in affordable range. And we'll probably, we're going to trend a little lower before we recover because the market will overreact and things will stabilize over a longer period of time. Next one, please. Here's how we compare to some of the other jurisdictions in Northern Virginia. We are down on the bottom here. The top 2 lines are Arlington and Alexandria, and you can see location matters. They're inside the Beltway. The rate of appreciation they saw, and now the rate of depreciation is much less. It's much more stable. They're much more built out. They have half their tax base is non-residential. They didn't see the growth that Prince William County and Loudoun County have seen in the past 6-8 years. Loudoun County is this line right here, and you can see they also are facing some difficult challenges. Most of the Northern Virginia jurisdictions are. But Loudoun County is closest to us. We have seen the greatest drop in values compared to the other Northern Virginia jurisdictions. We saw the greatest rate of appreciation, and so things have turned around on us. We're in a position, and earlier in this decade, I think if you've heard of Dr. Fuller over at GMU, he declared this would be the decade of Prince William County. And to some extent it has been. We were the next jurisdiction out. People were migrating here from around the country. The jobs were here. This was a affordable and community with high quality of life. also a lot of construction going on. And so that all fed to the crisis that we're dealing with. But you can see where our values are now going, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. Next slide, please. And just another quick glance at this. This is an index. These aren't values here, but this is an index that we borrowed from Case-Shiller. And it goes back, it's adjusted for inflation, but it goes back over 100 years. And you can see during the Depression and the wars that we were below. But since then, we were in this range of 100 to 120. And their hypothesis was that's where the real estate market needs to be. And you can see here, beginning earlier this decade, it spiked up. Now, we shared this with the board 2 years ago before these last few pieces of data were added. And we suggested at the time that regardless of where the values are now, they need to come back into that range if this index is accurate, and it's turning out to be very accurate. We have since overlaid, the red line is Prince William County's data, and you can see that we went up much greater than the national numbers, and so now we're coming right back down. And we're back in this index, and so you would begin to get some comfort with that. Okay, we've survived the crisis, and we'll go on from here very smoothly. But as I mentioned a minute ago, the market never reacts so smoothly, and we're going to overcorrect before things stabilize a little bit more. Sort of had that out of line. Here's what we're looking at. The red line is where we are now, and these are types of mortgages that are out there. These green bars here represent the subprime mortgages, and we think we've survived those. Subprime refers to the borrower's credit. They are below prime. These are folks who probably should have never been extended the credit that they received. But since underwriting was thrown out, they did. And they fed the pipeline for the foreclosures that we've experienced to this point in time. And I'll share those numbers with you in a minute also. What we're also concerned about is the next wave of foreclosures. These bars here represent these Alt-A mortgages and option adjustable rates. Now, this is national data, but Prince William County, unfortunately, has been tracking a lot of the bad activity that's you see out in California, Arizona, Nevada, some down in Florida, some up in Michigan and Ohio. And we're still trying to get a handle on to what extent these types of financing vehicles were used in Prince William County. But if this holds true, I have 2 minutes. I'll speak faster. Then we're going to have another bit of trouble to deal with. So let me move a little quicker here. Here's our foreclosures in Prince William County. It was not on our radar screen traditionally because they were insignificant. They were few and far between. 250 in 06, 2,800 in 07, and 6,500 in 2008. It would have been higher in 2008, except for Freddie and Fannie declaring a moratorium on foreclosures since November, initially to January 9th, and now they've pushed that a few more weeks to past, I guess, the inauguration. So if we're looking at this, we would begin to get a notion that the trend is changing and we're in for a calmer market, but I can't say that yet because I have to throw out November and December and wait till February or March even before things reflect reality once again. Here's where the, next slide please. Here's where the mortgages are in Prince William County, east to west. The greatest number happening in Dale City, 22193 zip code. Then we also have 22191 Woodbridge, and up here in the Sudley area, 20109. I want to keep moving here. So we have a tremendous amount of activity there. Now, the good news is, you hear a little bit, listings are decreasing. The level of activity is almost doubled from a year ago. So that would be the good news. But there's mixed signals in that because when we look at the bank sales still exceed up through August the number of units falling into foreclosure. And so we still had, on the next slide, our inventory of foreclosed units in the county increasing. And so again, that began to change here later in the year, but I have to throw out November and December until we get more accurate data. The other part of the story is as the volume of activity is picked up, the price, 80% of the sales happening out there are bank sales and short sales. And so the price, the average sales price is decreased, as you can see here, 37% for single-family units, 40% for townhomes over the course of the year. And this is the single most important thing that we look at to get a bearing on the market when we reassess values every January 1st. And on the next slide, you can see the difference here on single-family homes. These units that sold on average for $226, we had on our assessment roll valued at $353 because the sales activity has been, the bank sales continue to underbid the one prior to it, and down and down and down. And in fact, some of the federal programs that have been put in place have a requirement that you can get this loan from HUD, but you need to purchase the house for 15% less than the market, which, so that has it built in already that the bidding will be down lower and lower for those first-time home buyers. I want to quickly take you through a couple of examples here. Here's a Dale City home, 2,000 square feet, constructed in '67 on a quarter of an acre. It sold in '89 for $139,000, sold in '02 for $205,000, sold in '05 for $418,000. Now, one look at that house will tell you it's not $418,000 worth of value. But somebody paid it because they could borrow the money for it. It foreclosed in March, no big surprise. We had it reassessed down, not nearly enough. It sold in 2008 for $129,000, less than what it sold in 1989. That would suggest that we need to adjust the assessed value on that by another 60% down. The next one is, and this is not all old units, this is happening in the new developments also. Here's one out in Gainesville, and you can see the numbers on that. Was originally up at $533,000, sold most recently in the summer of '08 at foreclosure or after foreclosure for $350,000. And so that would suggest we need to adjust our assessed value down 26%. And that gets us to one of the most difficult challenges we're facing, the variability in the marketplace. Every unit in the county is going down at least 20% because of general trends and because of the few good sales that we can see that are happening out there. But when we talk about tax policy at the county, we have traditionally been able to talk about average values and average tax bills and the average rate of increase or decrease. We can't do that any longer because there's so much variability in there. The units have not been moving in lockstep, so to speak, even between markets. So even though the calculated median is here at 30%, all units are going down about 20%. You can see that some units are going to need to be adjusted by as much as 60%. Makes it very difficult to get to a tax policy. So finally, everybody has an opinion. We have ours also. You can see we're looking for values to decline by another 10% this year, 5% more in calendar 2010. Moody's Economy.com is a little bit more optimistic. They see the market bottoming out in '09 this year. Fitch is a little, has it in 2010. And maybe the best indication, and granted these are national indicators, maybe the best indication would be the Case-Shiller index futures market because you actually have people putting money at risk there and where values are going to go. So, started out a little slow, had to end up a little quick. I'll be glad to answer any questions when we get to that point in the program. Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Chris, and I'm sure there's some questions developing as we wait for our next speaker. Mr. Hughes?
Well, Chris has done a dynamite job of analyzing our current condition. I'd like to talk a little about the impact of that. I think the effects of the market as we've seen it are completely devastating on local government and state government. You're going to see things in the coming days that are, you'll see substantial reductions in all sorts of services. You will see classroom sizes getting larger. You may see schools being closed and all sorts of things that no one even dreamed of. I think the state is wrestling with that as we speak, and we, the city and the county, are in a position of trying to estimate where we're going to be in July at a time when we will have to adopt a budget at a time when we scarcely know what's going to happen in the state government. The state government will not act on most of their recommendations until March. We will be completely into the budget process by then. In fact, before the General Assembly adjourns, we have to project and advertise a tax rate. So it'll be a situation where the community will have no idea what to expect literally until about the time of public hearings on the budget. It's happening everywhere in the country. It's something that has not happened in this region because this region has always been considered a very stable environment because of the federal government and the many military installations around. But this is a very state and a very local impact. And it's one where in the city this year, at the present time, we are estimating that our residential values will be down about 27.5%. Townhomes probably closer to 40, like in the county. Devastating for homeowners at a time when many homeowners are trying to refinance because of loans and changing mortgage conditions. Commercial values, on the other hand, will also decline. Their decline will be substantially less than residential values. In our case, we believe around 10%, but again, it will be well into January before we have a final piece of information about that. The problem that creates is that given the devastation of all of this, not just on residential values and homes and local governments, but on the commercial enterprises of the country, we will be setting a tax rate based on no increase in residential values at a time that commercial values are not declining at that rate, so commercial tax bills go up. Those commercial tax bills last year, in some cases, went up 30% for that very reason. Hardly a time when you want to discourage commercial enterprise, where you want your commercial tax bills to be going up at rates like that. We're locked in by Constitution, by state law, although various folks are trying to make some modifications in that. At this time, we don't see a real good opportunity or a good solution to that problem. Because of the way our tax years are structured, it was necessary for us to act in our 2009 budget, because our second tax billing is actually in June, and it will be affected by the tax rate set by the City Council in April. So we were projecting about $1 million shortfall in the current year. So we had to go back and reduce budgets throughout the government. And also we did a major restructuring. We eliminated several departments. We have consolidated services and done a number of other things in order to close that gap. The bad news is we did have to do some layoffs. And in fact, we may have to do more next year. But at the present time, we think we've closed the gap for 2009. We think we have taken major steps toward resolving the problems we'll face in 10. However, the major problem I think we face is 11, FY11, because if it is late 2010 when the economy recovers, it's not going to be a recovery spike as we've seen in past years. It's going to be a recovery loop, very slow recovery. Anytime there's a recovery, it will take somewhere between 18 months and 2 years for that to impact local government. So you have 2 more years of budget crisis in local government before you see the impact of a recovery. I think when you look at what the city has done, we eliminated our Recreation and Parks Department. We've reduced services. We're looking at reductions of 5, 10, or 15% in various departments this year. So you're going to see fewer services, less availability of services, not just to low and middle income families, but to everyone. It will affect the police department. It will affect all of our other services in the government, and we are struggling to close those gaps, and we will struggle even more in FY11. Having said that, there have been some opportunities, modest opportunities at this point, but the City Council recently adopted a program to encourage city and schools employees to buy houses in the city. We see that as an opportunity not only for employees, but an opportunity for neighborhoods. We have entire neighborhoods that have been vacated. We would love to repopulate some of those neighborhoods and stimulate some additional activity in those neighborhoods and do that with our employees. That program is underway. We've done our first 3 loans already, and we anticipate others coming online. But the problem we're facing are the conditions of the mortgage market. Having created this subprime mess and having loaned money to people they shouldn't have loaned monies to, the banks now are not loaning money at all. So it's making it very difficult for us to get to a point where the employees who are qualified, they have good jobs, will be able to finance houses. But we still consider an opportunity for employees, opportunity for some of our neighborhoods. During the last several years, we created a neighborhood services program. And that neighborhood services program has won awards already. It's based on neighborhoods coming together to improve their own neighborhoods. It's based on large numbers of volunteers who have come from even outside the state. We have a tremendous program that's underway to improve our neighborhoods, and we've found a new umbrella for it. Many of our neighborhoods are older neighborhoods, and they don't have homeowners associations. Homeowners associations are great mechanisms for maintaining properties and assuring that neighborhoods are well managed. Well managed. Neighborhoods that don't have homeowners associations don't have a way to organize. They don't have covenants to enforce their neighborhoods. What we've been trying to do in those neighborhoods is find an umbrella, and surprisingly, the umbrella has become our neighborhood watches. Our neighborhood watch programs have expanded from 3 to 8, and within them, neighborhoods have been organizing not just as neighborhood watch, but as neighborhood improvement programs, and it's been really a remarkable development to watch happen. Neighborhood leadership has sponsored, and neighborhoods have actually engaged in improving their own environment. So I'm not sure about the light in the end of the tunnel yet. I'll take your word for that. But in our world, we're trying to take advantage of some of the situations we've encountered to find some opportunities. It also is giving local government and the state government for an opportunity to take stock of where they are, look at the opportunities that are coming, identify as best we can what the emerging opportunities are, and then be ready for that when the next economic wave comes to us. I think all of us have been shocked almost daily by the headlines and by the continuing condition of the economy. But again, I believe it's going to offer some opportunities, and as we go forward, all of us, I think, are optimistic of where we are going. We are looking for those opportunities, and with good fortune, I think we will find them. Thank you. I'll be happy to field questions as we go along.
Our next speaker this evening is Mr. Priley.
Thank you, ma'am. I just said to Mr. Hughes, oh my goodness, I'm following that. That's tough. Jason Grant, our well overpaid communications manager, who's punching buttons tonight, overpaid only for tonight. It is. Move this down. Am I talking too loud to your mic? No. It is a pretty bleak situation. Hit our slides for us, Jason. But you know what we like to do in economic development, what we guys do is we package and promote this community to the business sector in the hopes of creating jobs. The reason why we do that, you see these statistics. We've got nearly 400,000 people in our community, and as you see, the labor force is 200,000, and at place employment is 104,000. What that means is 50% of our workforce gets up in the morning tomorrow, and they leave our community to go to work, most of them to the Beltway and beyond. So your elected officials years ago recognized a quality of life issue for citizens to repatriate those citizens back to Prince William County to create job opportunities. The other issue being addressed by economic development, and many, but also in economic development, is increasing the tax base that's non-residential. Ironically, the proportionate tax base is going up, but it's not because of a dramatic increase in commercial investment. It's contributing, but it's the dramatic decrease in residential values. So we were shooting for a 75% ratio, and we're getting close. Yeah, but it has it's coincidental to the market. Unemployment rate still pretty strong, 3.9%. Nationwide, it's about 7%. We trend well under that. Northern Virginia is very, very positive, lucrative, successful business region, as is the Washington metropolitan area. We hear statistics quite often from Dr. Fuller's name was mentioned earlier, and I'll talk about him a little bit tonight. He's George Mason University professor that is probably the most interesting regional economist that we have. We listen to him an awful lot. He's looking at multiple metropolitan areas around the nation, and he's showing Washington metropolitan area to be leading the nation, top 2, top 3 metropolitan areas during every economic cycle in job creation, growth, and expansion. And I'll talk about that in a few seconds. We look at our employment picture as bleak as many of the economic indicators are. We can see this 10-year trend on Prince William County employment going from 68,000 jobs 10 years ago to 104,000 jobs today. That slight drop from 107 to 104 is an anomaly in the Virginia Employment Commission's numbers. So the trend is still pretty positive. What I'd like to point out is this is second quarter 08. The latest data available, third quarter 08, fourth quarter 08, and current quarter that we're in now are likely to continue to see a drop, a contraction in jobs in certain areas, such as construction and employment. You can see we added 6,000 jobs in construction employment in Prince William County. Out of the 107,000 jobs that we had, 104,000 jobs we had, we went from 10,000 to 16,000 construction employees at the height in 06, and began to lose those jobs in 07 through 07 and somewhat in 08. We lost 4,000, contracted down. Real estate, it's a small job market, but an important job market and indicative of what's happening in contraction in the housing industry. So it's affecting the jobs area as well. The contraction in homes, the reduction in sales, the reduction in permits of new homes, losing construction jobs, and in the real estate community, although it is stabilizing now. Professional and technical services, this is the anomaly. This is the higher paying jobs in Prince William County, and they match the educational profile of our citizens. Highly educated workforce, many of them exported, so when we're looking to bring jobs back into the county, we're looking for jobs that are going to match that educational profile of those people we're exporting. So we, in economic development, don't go after retail jobs. Retail comes into the county following disposable income. They don't need the government's attention. Professional technical jobs do, and we have a steady increase in that in that category, and those are typically $55,000 to $75,000 to $90,000 a year. The retail employment is an Achilles heel for us. We have to keep an eye on that. This number here is 20% of our workforce, entire workforce in Prince William County. When you add the food services worker, that makes it 30% of our workforce. It's another 10,000 people. And these are not high-paying jobs, but important jobs. Put that in perspective, the second largest contributor to the tax base in Prince William County is Potomac Mills Mall. So it's important that we support our retail industry. They're very great contributors to our economy, and they provide jobs necessary for those citizens who want retail jobs. But now we're watching the numbers, the national numbers, contract. We heard about retail sales in the fourth quarter of 08, and as we all know, many retailers get 40% of their income on an annual basis from that Christmas sales, and these Christmas sales were abysmal. So we don't have, this is second quarter of '08, we don't have third quarter, fourth quarter yet, we certainly don't have fourth quarter now, but I think we're going to take a hit in retail jobs. I think we'll have a contraction there. As we look to the future, we don't have the brilliant minds of the economy focused exclusively on Prince William County. What we have are national statistics, not unlike what you see in much of the analysis we've been doing tonight in front of you. These national statistics, here's a purchasing managers index that we look at, and you can see the tremendous drop in confidence. 50. Above 50, it looks good. Below 50, it looks bad. And it's dropping from month to month starting in August of '08, where the purchasing managers nationwide are saying, people are not buying, we're not buying. The non-manufacturing index, service and suppliers, similarly is dropping dramatically. No sector has reported growth at this time, no sector at all. And new orders have contracted for 13 consecutive months and at their lowest levels since 1948. Philadelphia Fed outlook, not any different really. It fell a dramatic 41 points in October. I'm going to step away here. This drop, here to here, was the foundation of the shock of many people who watch these numbers. When we see that, and then it continued, the sub-indexes have all fallen, and they're hitting dramatic lows. So enough of statistics, I think. Is that the last one? The GDP. Gross domestic product has dropped now to a forecast of negative 0.05, and the dotted line you see is what Dr. Fuller, who I'll reference, George Mason University predicted yesterday. This is his number, -5 for fourth quarter '08, and a continuation of -5 in first quarter. I have personally never seen a -5 on GDP. So that's the bad news. Those are the forecasts that we're looking at. We think we have some similarities in Prince William County with our existing clients that we're working with. We had about 65 deals that we were working on throughout 2008, some of which were developers and people who are building spec buildings. Everything is on hold. Some is canceled. Everything is on hold. Credit is the issue. Confidence is the issue. Pipeline of supply is the issue. So we're stepping back and looking at our outreach marketing plan and trying to understand where the money went. Money didn't disappear. We know better. Money just moves around. Where did it go? And it dawned on us that the new financial capital of the globe is Washington, D.C., and we're next door. So we think that things are going to look pretty good, perhaps, in the economic development world. One of the reasons is this map we're looking at. Prince William County has become the center of Northern Virginia in terms of accessing your workforce. 75% of those 1.2 million homes in Northern Virginia within a 30-minute one-way commute during rush hour to the center of Prince William County. We export 100,000 people. Another 125,000 highly educated workers come through our county, go up to the Beltway to work. We've got the reverse commute. We've got a pretty good story there, and it's resonating well. Jason. We're talking to the markets about talking to a couple of different markets and a couple of different products I'll talk about tonight. It's a lot more than this, but in my 7 more minutes left, I'll talk just about Potomac communities. Belmont Bay, for those of you who not be familiar with this, it's a 10-year-old project. It's up at the Fairfax County, Prince William border in the Occoquan River. It's a mixed-use development that has a lot of promise and potential. You can see in the bottom frame, you probably can't make this out, but high-density town center there, and we have corporate office location opportunities right on the river. Stonebridge Potomac Center, the picture on the right is what it's going to look like. Picture on the left, it's currently in development. You hear a lot about Wegmans here on 29. There's a Wegmans on Interstate 95. This is the Wegmans grocery store project, and we have office buildings that are set and sited here in this project for 500,000 square feet. Office development around Quantico Marine Corps Base, the Quantico Center, Quantico Gateway Point Center, and then we have the U.S. Heritage Museum. For those of you who haven't seen it down the quarter, this is really worthy of your time to go down and look at this museum. It's fantastic. So with this picture, I'm telling you about a market opportunity that we've identified for some time now, and that's the federal government and the subcontractors to Fort Belvoir and Quantico Marine Corps Base. On the western, could you go back to that other slide? So in that arena, we have 26 projects announced up and down that corridor for $500 million of investment and nearly 1,000 jobs. And this equates to a pretty prominent market, to an area that used to be referred to as the Route 1 corridor. So there is demand on that side. On the western side of the county, we have a prominent technology park. This was a horse farm 10 years ago. It's currently 38 deals in there for $725 million and about 3,000 employees. In the top right, you can see, in addition to that, Micron Semiconductor Plant, which is in the city of Manassas. There's a master plan underway now. The Performing Arts Center. Is everybody here familiar with the Performing Arts Center that's under construction? It's something to pay attention to. 9-story state-of-the-art opera house. That's going to be the town hall of a newly planned town center that's going to complement George Mason University and the technology campus. It will be the employment future of Prince William County over the next 20 years. Skip that one. I'm running out of time. We have 3 target audiences that we're looking at in 1 minute. Let's go to the next one. And one of those target audiences is life sciences. George Mason University has brought to us the life sciences community with their curriculum, PhD curriculum, and bachelor's degree and master's degree curriculum. We've got 13 projects in life sciences now with 1,200 jobs, which is pretty prominent considering it's a very small pie out there in the marketplace. And we're going after the federal government in a big way. We've already identified 67 federal government subcontract projects that are here in Prince William County. We're federal government friendly, we're secure friendly, we're military friendly. We've got the FBI, Quantico, Belvoir, and many of the government institutions are here that we can't talk about. Everybody in the room knows about them, but I can't say it. And about 3,000 jobs in that area. Thanks, Jason. And when we look at the trend of Prince William County's ability to compete in the marketplace over the last 10 years, we find 275 deals coming in for $3 billion of investment and over 13,000 jobs. So we think we're well positioned to get through the economic downturn, and we think we're going to be well positioned to be first and front and center when the economy returns. And I'll be on the question table here.
Thank you very much. We're getting a real mix of the negative, the positive, and the hopeful, and we're all going to stick it out here. Mr. Laws?
Good evening. Yes, we heard a lot of negative here and some positive, and there's outlook. I don't have slides, but I would like to paint a picture of a bear, and that bear is foreclosure, the foreclosure bear. 2 guys at the bottom of a mountain are there camping out, and they wake up in the morning, and one of them look up the hill. You know, bears come down the hill a little slow because they'll tumble if they go fast, and so is a bear coming towards him. One of the guys say, what do we do? Then a gentleman say, I don't know what you're going to do. I'm just going to take off my backpack. So he do, and the bear get a little bit closer. Then the other one's still sitting there fully dressed, and the guy said, what are you going to do? He take off his boots. And then before you know it, the bear's a little closer to them, and the bear's at the bottom of the hill and begin to pick up speed. That's that foreclosure bear. And and then now he looked at his friend and said, what do I do? He said, I don't know. He said, well, we got to do something. We got to outrun this bear. He said, no. You know, he's fully undressed. All I have to do is outrun you. And so sitting here, you see the foreclosure coming, okay? Do not sit there and do nothing. First Home Alliance is a nonprofit organization, was established in 2004. And our mission is to increase and sustain home ownership. Now, speaking of the situation we're in now, the state of Virginia had over 27,000 foreclosures in the year of 2008. That number was cut off at November, right before they stopped the foreclosures. Here in Prince William County, there was over 6,500. That come out to about 541 per month. And if you think about it, that's 27 per day. If you go to work days in a month, that's 20 work days per month. So just about every hour during a work day, a house here in Prince William County is foreclosing. There are things that you can do prior to letting yourself get in a situation where you're receiving a notice on the door where you're evicted out. There's a process that the lenders have to go through. There are state guidelines before they can foreclose upon your property. The first thing you should do is open the mail that you're getting. Okay? The mail is coming to the home, open the mail. Give the lender a call. If you do not feel comfortable talking to a lender, call your local nonprofit. First Home Alliance is, of course, is in the directory. You can go to HUD.gov, pull up the housing counselors, and in any area in the United States, there's a housing counselor that's close by, and you can find those numbers on HUD.gov. There are a alliance that is set up that is a network of HUD housing counseling agencies that work with the 27 lenders here in the United States. It's called Hope Alliance. Hope Alliance have a network set up that would also help home buyers. FHA, which is work very close with HUD, has a loan product if the possibility of refinance. It's called FHA Secure. Now, most of us say, well, we don't qualify for refinance, and most of us do not qualify for refinance because the values of the home are upside down. But that option is out there. In the options that an individual have in reaching the foreclosure, rather than going through the foreclosure process, one is a reinstatement, where you will work with your lender and get the loan reinstated. Normally, you have to come up with a lump sum, reinstate the loan, and go forward from there. The next is a repayment plan, just in case you cannot come up with a lump sum to reinstate the loan. You set up a payment plan to bring yourself current. The next is a loan modification. The loan modification is where they change the terms of the loan for the length of the loan, or the terms could be maybe modified for a period of 5 years, then they could go back to the normal rate. That is considered a loan modification, where the terms are changed. And then the next is it's a partial claim. You would have to have an FHA loan where you come in with a partial claim. A partial claim is a certain a portion that can go up to the 12 months payments of your mortgage. The loan is given to the homeowner, not to the homeowner, but to the lender to bring the loan current, and it can be a max of 12 months of your monthly premium. And in some cases, that may not have to be repaid, and in some cases, it would be repaid at the end of your 30-year term. The next would be a deed in lieu of foreclosure. A deed in lieu of foreclosure. Basically, if you have attempted the short sale, she mentioned about short sale. Short sale is a way of preventing a foreclosure, such as you can't afford the home, so you will put the home up for sale. The lender will require you to have it listed for 90 days. After the 90-day period, but you would agree to this prior to that, then you could actually deed the home back to the lender. But again, that is an agreement that would be in place with the lender prior to listing the home for sale. And it will have to be listed with a broker, and it have to be listed on the MLS, not as for sale by owner. Okay, that is some of the options that is available for you. Some of the things that are coming up for HUD. HUD has Hope for Homeowners. A lot of us seen that in the news around October of last year. It was activated at that time, but there's no lenders that are accepting those guidelines at this time. Hope for Homeowners would be where the home would be refinanced at the present market value. Well, actually 90% of the present market value. It would be refinanced at the present 90% of the present market value. And that will give the homeowner equity amount in there. The loss, actually, the original lender would take the loss. At this time, the reason none of the lenders are accepting that is because HUD didn't give an incentive to the lenders to accept the Help for Homeowners. But I think up under the new administration, that may come about soon. The next thing that HUD is coming out with is the Neighborhood Stabilization Plan. They basically left it up to the local organizations to come up with a way of purchasing some of the foreclosed properties and either leasing or selling it back to first-time home buyers. They are leaving it up to the local housing authorities. It's a possibility they could use some of those funds for down payment assistance. The advantage, the opportunities that are out there now with the cost, the home prices are down. It's more of an opportunity for first-time home buyers to purchase homes, even though they took away a lot of the incentives and down payment assistance. But they do have the $7,500 tax credit that will help a first-time home buyer move into the home. Again, First Home Alliance, we do the main core business that we do is education and counseling for homeowners. our major strategies. One is financial literacy training. The next is introduction to homeownership and also foreclosure prevention. And I'll be here for questioning.
Questions? There are a couple of questions just to get things started I'd like to throw out up here. The process that we'll be doing, we have microphones for each one of our speakers. So as you ask a question, we'll be repeating the question and have our speakers give you thorough, positive, total, straight answers, right? I mean, this is the panel for it. I'd like to start off with one question. As the article in the paper that Michelle shared with us earlier, some of the speculation as far as why Prince William County had this major fall and decline that was a fairly quick decline before the rest of the state caught up with Prince William County. So as mentioned in the paper, I'd like to get opinions from our speakers as far as how they feel Prince William County's policies. Certainly the chairman and the Board of Supervisors of Prince William County made headlines with some of their decisions, but do you feel that the decisions made on the immigration policies in Prince William County had any effect on the fall of the beginning of the decline in Prince William County? Starting with a soft one here.
That's real easy. First of all, I'm not sure that the rest of the state is caught up with Prince William. There are other hot spots around the state regarding foreclosures, and we were hit sooner than most other jurisdictions, and we've experienced the biggest decline. But now that wave is moving back in towards the Beltway, actually, and recently even some of our jurisdictions to the north have decreased, I should say, their outlook for the future. The way I view the foreclosure crisis is as an economic event. We're undergoing a tremendous rate of growth, and as you saw from the data Martin shared, the jobs in the county increased, especially in construction. And when the credit dried up and the construction projects stopped, those folks didn't have jobs any longer to pay those mortgages. And that was the big catalyst for a lot of the foreclosure activity that we've been experiencing.
Okay, thank you. Is there a question in the audience? Okay, we'll start over here, please.
Is there a program in the county to have county employees buy these foreclosed homes?
Okay, the question is there a program in the county to help county employees purchase some of these foreclosed homes?
There are a number of programs in the county. Our housing department has been working to put the programs together that were mentioned, that HUDIS and the TARP program put out there. And the board adopted those programs, I guess, about a month ago. And this was the neighborhood stabilization program. Those programs, as they're defined, need to focus on where the hot spots are in the county. And so when we put those together, working with the housing office, we broke down the foreclosure activity to census tracts. And so we have the data down to census tracts, and those are the areas of the county with the highest rates of foreclosure and where those programs would be available for any resident, or for that matter, anyone at all, to buy a home in those areas. Now, getting back to programs for Prince William County employees specifically, we've developed a program we refer to as Home Help in conjunction with our bank, who happens to be SunTrust. And they will be making mortgages available to county employees at below market interest rates and with other closing cost assistance to buy homes in Prince William County. And we put this in place to try and address the great amount of inventory that's in the county, and at the same time, we married it with the board's strategic goal to have workforce, in particular first responders, living in Prince William County rather than commuting from some other jurisdiction. And so, yes, we do have a program like that that we're going to be rolling out over the next couple months.
As a matter of fact, that program specifically, there was a seminar today given by SunTrust to realtors to educate them about the program, so hopefully you'll be seeing more about that. Brianna?
Hi, I'm Brianna Alton, I live in the Coles District. And when I moved to Virginia, we made our home in Prince William. We were moving to a premier community and we were looking forward to it. We told our friends and family we were moving to Prince William and everybody said, "Where's that?" And it was shortly thereafter that we made national news with Lorena Bobbitt. Then we made national news with the Sniper and Disney. And now we're leading the nation in going after illegal immigrants. And so with all these things being said, now all my family and friends know absolutely where Prince William is. And sorry, Mr. Hughes, but they always like to say, "Oh, you live in Manassas," which, as you know, 22192 isn't quite Manassas, but there's that association, unfortunately, with Lorena Bobbitt and some other things. So with that being said, you knew you couldn't leave without anybody bringing this up, but with that being said, do you really think we really didn't have the opportunity, we didn't have the time to really kind of move past some of those things that have happened within our community before we really could distinguish ourselves as a premier community? Do you think that that's going to slow down our progress, or do you think that that's not really an issue anymore? Just curious.
I'm going to try and summarize that question for you if I can. And Brianna, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think the question is, in light or in spite of some of the news headlines about Prince William County, do you feel that we can grow as a premier community because of the recent headlines? Would that be close?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that is some of the things that we've had no control over, is that going to slow the process down when it comes to, attracting businesses to the area or attracting, investors to buy up some of the foreclosures? Do you think that our image, if you will, is going to challenge us in that arena?
So the question is, will our image detract from the growth possibilities that we're looking for?
Well, since Chris took the other question, I'll try this one. Image is nebulous. We are who we think we are. That's who we are. And for a government to be responsible for the image, I think is probably not the right thing. Responsible for the message, absolutely. And we all have a message. Every organization, this organization, our job is to unify that message to the marketplace as best we can, but we don't control that. There are messaging is going on in our community, some of which you pointed out. Washington, D.C. is messaging globally. There's 750 media messages every 5 minutes out of Washington, D.C. You can pay $6,000 for a four-color spread, and you can be one of those. And you might effect change to one reader. But to then think the image is going to be affected is a little nebulous. So that's the foundation on the first part of your question. I understand the foundation, Brianna, of what you're saying. My point is, when we have businesses come in from outside the region, they don't know anything you're talking about, but then they hear you talking about it, and then they ask me about it. What are these people talking about, The Washington Post wrote the pumpkin article, and they had interviewed 7 people, prominent citizens of Prince William County. Each of them called me and said, "Don't worry, the reporter was saying these things, but I got them substrate." None of which were quoted. The 2 people they found were quoted were people who wanted to shop in Tyson. One wanted us to move Tyson's corner to here, which we can't do unless you want to take taxpayer money and subsidize, hundreds of millions of dollars to bring in 150 retail jobs. It doesn't make economic sense to do that. And by the way, I don't mind driving. When I go to Tiffany's, which is a joke. I don't shop there. I wish I could. But Tiffany's is not going to locate in every community. They're going to be in the center of a concentric circle of disposable income location is retail. So we have had debates in our community, in multiple community groups, not unlike this group, talking about why is our image so bad. And I gotta tell you, I don't think it is. I have $3 billion worth of investment on the table that are economic facts that I showed you today. And people coming and hiring right and left. We've got the new FBI guys are in here. It's 200 of them. Most of them have bought houses, according to what they told me. This is anecdotal. Have bought houses here in Prince William County, and they are maybe the one group that is ecstatic about the housing prices because they know they're coming in and buying good bargains. So to your question, is it slowing business? I don't see evidence of that. I imagine there may be a case somewhere where somebody read something in the newspaper and it offended them to some degree and they didn't clarify, or perhaps they did clarify, and maybe that we can hire employees, we can surface park them, they can get into their job in 30 minutes or something around 30 minutes, and they will work for money that you don't have to pay in downtown DC. So we're very, very competitive in that way, and that's why we've had success, and I think it's going to continue to come as the economy turns.
If I could just piggyback on those remarks, as a realtor in the county for close to 30 years, I would echo the sentiment expressed, because I know last year in my role as president of the Prince William Association of Realtors, I was often asked for interviews for the various papers. And I can tell you, if it was a positive image that I was trying to portray about Prince William County, it seldom got printed. But it was the negative remarks by a disgruntled realtor in a parking lot in front of Walmart who was asked questions about fine dining in Prince William County that got quoted. So I think a lot of our image, and I would agree with you that we are who we think we are, and that's what we portray. But as realtors, we're portraying a growing population, a growing business, a growing economic, and this is just a temporary slump. But I would say that in part of your question, most of us do feel there was a correlation with an overnight leaving of the communities by the Hispanic population. Whether right or wrong, they felt certainly that there was a difference in perception. But I think we're overcoming that, and I would agree with you that we see businesses coming and hiring and working with people to come into our community.
We didn't have an accurate number of folks that you're talking about to begin with, because we looked to see, because we heard that conversation. We're unable to identify scientifically, statistically, the population to begin with, so we're unable to identify the change in the population. So I don't know where that data is originating, and I have not been able to find it. So.
Right. Thank you. We have a question in the back.
My name is Don Scoggins. I live here in Prince William County. I'm assistant treasurer of the Committee of 100. I want to have a couple of things to say. One is that I used to live in Fairfax County, and when my wife and I decided we wanted a little more space in terms of property and everything, we looked and looked and looked. For 2 years in Fairfax County, we couldn't find it. We really wanted to live in Clifton, you know. But the realtor said, "Why don't you have you considered Prince William County?" I said, "Prince William County?" I said, "Route 1? You mean Route 1?" And she said, "No, there's some nice places in Prince William County." You know, so what she did was, since I used to be a real estate broker in D.C., I did the reconnaissance. So we went out Old Yates Ford Road from, down, was it Davis Ford?
Davis Ford.
Then off of Bacon Race Road and everything. And I said, "Oh, this is great. We can deal with this." We wanted the woodsiness and everything. And so then I took my wife down there. Then we drove. She said, "Oh, this is great." And she said, "I like this." And then after we went in the house and looked at it and everything, she said, "Oh, where are we?" I said, "Oh, this is William Woodbridge." Then I said, "Well, this is what, So anyway, make a long story short, I think that to Martin and maybe Chris, I would recommend doing what Baltimore did a few years ago. A lot of people working in D.C., they specifically live in Baltimore because the prices are much less. I would recommend, I know things are kind of tight, but I would recommend that the county take on some kind of publicity program, geared towards young people, saying it's hip, this, that, and the other, to live in Prince William, because I work in DC, and there are many young people I come into who don't necessarily want to have roommates, and the little condos or whatever they rent there for $1,200 or $1,500 a month. They're almost one-bedroom apartments. And I would think some of these nice little homes I've seen down here that are first-time home buyer type properties, they would be snapped up, I think, if people made a good, and I've seen some that have been fixed up by some of the young kids, and they look very nice, little cute, 2 or 3 bedroom homes that'd be nice. So I think that in the neighborhoods, they're really not that bad, because one thing I like about Woodbridge versus some of the other parts in Northern Virginia is that they really don't go in and bulldoze all the trees. They do try to leave some of the trees up. So I think that would be a recommendation I would make.
Okay, so instead of a question, we have a recommendation that the county look into a public relations campaign to promote Prince William County. Would that be the statement? Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kathy Ballard. I had a question for Ms. Martino. You said that we have a very low unemployment rate, 3.7%, and then someone else said that we had lost about 4,000 construction jobs between last year and this year. But then you had said that the construction jobs drying up were a big cause of the foreclosures, but 4,000 people isn't that much. So how do we rectify those 3 sets of numbers?
Okay, I think the question is comparing the numbers that were given earlier on the loss of job rates in the construction area versus the numbers of growth development, right?
Right, and I talked about the construction jobs as an example, viewing the foreclosures as an economic event that being caused by people losing jobs, and specifically in construction. And so when they don't have a job, they're going to uproot and go where they can find work because they can't afford where they're living. So that's an example of what has been feeding the foreclosure pipeline. We did have also probably had some transient workers in the county. You have that whenever you have the rate of growth in the community that we've experienced. And when those jobs again were no longer, they moved on to where there was new work.
So we have such a low unemployment rate. I guess I'm not understanding.
Because they're not counted. The ones
Because
that
they're
left.
not counted.
Sure.
But are they foreclosed?
Well, the other part of this,
Because we wouldn't even count them.
the other part of this, you do have people who may still have a job, but they purchased above their heads, and the fact that they have a job doesn't matter anymore. That's another example. There's lots of things feeding the whole foreclosure pipeline.
And a lot of the people that you see going through the foreclosures are then looking into alternative places to live, as whether it's moving back in with parents or other relatives or combining households. We do see a lot, which those numbers I'm sure there's just no way to track those numbers. If somebody still has a job but can't afford their house, they're just moving elsewhere. That job is still counted, but that house goes to foreclosure. That's I don't know how we'd ever track those numbers to keep track of jobs versus foreclosures. We have, Michelle, I think you had a couple of questions.
I think it's more questions.
Okay. Okay, yes, ma'am.
My name is Judy Anderson. I live in the Bridgeville district. The question I have is, what is our vacancy rate for commercial and retail building? Have we overbuilt? What's our rate of vacancy?
Question is, what is our rate of vacancy for commercial property?
We have warehouse, office, flex space, and retail, different numbers, generally all combined together. I think we're at 15% now, 16%. Have we overbuilt? The demand has dropped as supply has been delivered. I'll put it that way. We have had a lot of inventory increase over the past 3 years. We've looked for it, we needed it, we wanted it. A lot of demand was coming into the county looking for existing space. 80–70% of our client base are not looking for greenfields to build a building. They're looking for a place to lease 50,000 feet, 100,000 feet, 20,000 feet. We didn't have a lot of that 8 years ago. The development community stepped up. Great developers have come in and picked up prime pieces of property. They've up and down Ballsford Road that changed hands a couple of times. But we have, what Peterson has done over at Gateway and at Garcia on the east, Standard Properties, and Chalmers and Buchanan at Heritage Hunt and at Innovation, Opus, all these, many of which are national, some regional, some local developers, all have stepped up and increased office space, warehouse space, and delivered at a time when the market began to contract. And that is the name of the game in real estate development. It happened in 91, in 95, it's happening now. And I'm hopeful that they're going to be able to hang on. And we can provide some assistance to bring tenants in, and they can hang on to their spreadsheets and stay healthy in their portfolios. Rates are up.
Not in the city. How is it in the city?
In the city at this minute, 3 years ago, there were no vacancies in Old Town. There are several vacancies now, largely retail vacancies. The trends are that vacancies in commercial properties and values in commercial properties generally will hold their value a little longer than residential, but their decline lags residential. So in the coming couple of quarters, I think you'll see commercial values drop because there's a growing amount of vacant space both in Fairfax and other jurisdictions. I think as recovery begins, that you'll see greater demand in Prince William and Manassas earlier because prices will be lower and beginning businesses and expanding businesses, I think, will look to us.
Just as a quick example on the commercial front, when you consider how far in advance a business has to, if you're going to build a building or look for space, you start that process years in advance. Many projects, for instance, with the Red Cross, we have a building we would like to build. We've had to put it off because of economic times. But yet we have architectural drawings, we have so much of the work done, but it's not feasible. The Prince William Association of Realtors is building a building on the Parkway. As a matter of fact, it's that lonely standing building next to the McCourt, the county buildings there. But that process started 10 years ago. And who knew that now we'd be facing, that's going to be our monument that we're survivors and we're going to stick around. But I can tell you when we started 10 years ago, we never fathomed the economic slowdown we're having in real estate right now. Yes, sir, over here first.
John Gray from the Occoquan District. If anything, the run-up in assessments from 2000 until last year, and now the crash shows how county and city finances are affected by real estate valuation. Does anybody have any thoughts on what other base the county and city, local government can look at to stabilize revenues to avoid this? Because again, this is the second time this has happened since the 80s.
The question is based around assessments and how we're going to stabilize.
Or some other base.
Or some other base.
Well, yes, real estate tax makes up 60% of our general revenues in the county. So where real estate goes, we all go. First of all, we don't have many options. We can only do what the state permits. And we have, in our meetings, our annual fiscal retreats with the board, talked about other options from time to time. There's not a whole lot of desire to impose new taxes these days. There is meals tax, there's an admissions tax, there's a cigarette tax. There are some other taxes that, whether by getting enabling legislation or going to referendum, that could be put in place to help diversify our revenue base. So, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here to saying even if we could say we'll reduce our real estate and personal property taxes so that we'd be revenue neutral, I'm not sure those would be well and readily accepted by the community. So after that, then you get into just an academic discussion about what's possible, and everything from an income tax to just various taxes out there are possible in academic sense, but as a practical matter, we don't have many alternatives here. What we did when we saw what was happening, we tried to say, well, what can we do when we know that it's going to fall off in the future? Well, what do we do about it? And so we did build up some reserves to the extent that we could. That was practical and that was acceptable to the community. But at some point, it gets unacceptable to tax folks to put money in the bank, tax people today put money in the bank for tomorrow when we know we're going to need it. It's no one wants to pay those taxes just to as a cushion for an unknown, because we didn't know at the time when or to what extent the market would turn. Obviously, we're there now. And so now going forward, we are, as Mr. Hughes talked about, reshaping our budgets, reorganizing where we can throughout the city and county, and drawing down these reserves. Some of them immediately, some of them over a number of years to try and smooth out the impact of the economic crisis. I mean, those are the levers that we have at our disposal.
Thank you.
In the city, we've done a couple of things. One, we went through an economic disaster back in the early 90s when one morning IBM moved out. And literally in a day, 10% of the general fund budget left, which was a huge hit. Several things have happened since then. One, the city did develop a large general fund balance to guard against single or large taxpayers that might leave town. Secondly, over the last 10 years, the city has diversified its tax base. It's no longer dependent on one taxpayer. We now have Micron, BAE Systems, Lockheed Martin, and some fairly stable large companies in town, as well as more retail. For a period of time, I think when I was working for the county, there was sort of this, we don't want any more retail. Our view of retail is that it's a great tax base. We once did an analysis that said on a large parcel of land, the highest and best use would be a Walmart superstore in terms of tax revenue, including the parking. Well, we didn't want a Walmart superstore, but what I'm saying is retail and restaurants are great revenue for us, and we encourage them, and it's helped diversify our tax base.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Recently, there was announcements that we got HUD money, Prince William County. I thought it was $3.8 or $4 million, and I wondered if Mr. Laws or one of the other panelists had an idea of how that money would be spent and what's the best idea for how to spend that money so that we get the biggest bang for our buck to help us out of where we are.
Okay, and I think the question is that Prince William County has received $4.5 million from HUD, and how is that being used or distributed?
Yes, that $4 million is a portion of the budget for the Neighborhood Stabilization Plan, as NSP. And they left it up to each local government, housing department, as to how they would spend it. Prince William County Department of Housing and Community Development is working on distributing that money. Some of it could be used to purchase the foreclosed properties and then renovate and resell. The other could be used to purchase foreclosed properties, whether it's multifamily use or single family, for rental. And then the third option would be to use the funds for down payment assistance. And so they may do a multiple of those choices there.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Michelle?
Yes, just one or two.
Sure.
Someone that we shared a couple weeks ago.
Let you thought of it as good. No? Okay. You want me to start at the top?
Yeah.
These were questions that were sent in advance by members of the committee. And the first, we'll start right at the top. How much county tax money has been spent on the program in terms of staff salaries, and how much is anticipated the county will spend each year to take applications and monitor the program? I'm assuming this is the county, the home help program?
Well, we haven't been we haven't been spending, in one sense, we haven't been spending any money on just home help. When we began this, now going back over 12 months, it comes out of looking at the data and recognizing that we had a foreclosure problem in the county, and we needed to try and do something about it. And so the county exec created a foreclosure task force. And initially, we began working on to address the issue with neighborhood stabilization, our neighborhood services, our neighborhood services division over in Public Works, because we had folks leaving town and we had unkept lawns and unkept property, and so that was the first, one of the first things that we did. And you may recall back about a year ago, we were anticipating some problems with simply mowing lawns. And, you know, when the grass gets too high, it's unsightly, and it begins to affect adjacent properties and the whole streets, and that begins to compound itself. So we began doing some of those things to try and address the issue. This task force then began working on what came to be our home health program. So it didn't come to be just to create the home health program, but what we did was, when the market's going to reach equilibrium at some point, how can we try and help it get there sooner and at a higher level than it otherwise would do? And we understand that we're working on the margins here in terms of the number of units in the county and the number of units in foreclosure and our limited capacity to have some impact here. And so that's when we married it with one of the board's strategic goals to provide workforce housing. So time and effort has been expended by this task force, but not just for the home health program. It's ongoing and will continue to be ongoing as long as we have the rate of foreclosure activity out there that we have. When the program itself, now that it's in place, will take no time, no resources away from the county. And that was one of the key issues for the board, since we have limited capacities, limited budget. In fact, we're downsizing. We didn't want to bring a program on that we could not sustain. And that's why we are only facilitating this with our bank and with employees. We are not buying properties to turn around and resell or to lease. We are using our investment portfolio to encourage the bank to make the loans that it's making to the county workforce. We invest every day anywhere from, in our investment portfolio, we're investing anywhere from $600 million to, right after tax time, as much as $1 billion. So we're routinely investing funds so they're not sitting idle in bank accounts. One of the investment vehicles is bank CDs. We approached SunTrust Bank and said, we are putting this money with you. We would like to have you become more involved in the community and with the county workforce. And so they agreed to do that. And we are guaranteeing that we will put as much as $50 million of our CD investments out of our portfolio with SunTrust Bank. And we will be paid a market rate of interest on those investments, the same as we do today, same as we otherwise would have. So we are not losing anything on that deal. The market rate of interest offered on any given day when we go out to bid is what we'll receive on those CDs. If it's not acceptable, we won't we'll place the funds with SunTrust, we'll go somewhere else. In any event, when the money is placed with SunTrust, they now have the capacity to loan that money out to county employees at a below market interest rate. So there's some give up here on the bank's part, and they are also providing some other credits to county employees to try and put this program in place. They're looking for the business. This isn't simply one-sided. They have made it a requirement that county employees in this program would need to open a bank account with SunTrust. The employee is going to receive a $100 credit for opening that account. The bank is going to debit the account for their monthly mortgage payment, so that gives them some level of comfort there that they're going to get their payment on time and in full. And it's all back to our direct deposit program. And now they have a new customer, they hope, for a long-term relationship. So it's a public-private partnership. I think the one will work well for both of us.
If I could just throw out, I don't know if there are any mortgage lenders in the audience. It's a great program that's available, but it is a small niche of the market. I wouldn't want people to walk out thinking this is going to save Prince William County and the foreclosure rate, because there's still that issue, the way finance programs have changed over the last 12 months. Down payments are now reality. Mortgage lenders are no longer loaning 105% of the value of the house. There is a down payment and credit issues too. So I wouldn't want us to misunderstand that this is going to be across the board a saving of the foreclosure market.
Let me anticipate a few other questions and continue down this track. That 50, we've set a limit on the price of a home that an employee can buy, because we do not want to be helping employees buy $600,000 homes. And so the price that we have set, the ceiling that we've set on this program is $300,000. And the way we get to that is back to the old metrics that I showed you, 3 times the household income. The average, the area median income put out by HUD is $99,000. And so what we took those metrics and 3 times that gets you to $300,000, and that's where we defined the limit that an employee, of the value of the home that an employee can buy through this program. Now, if we're putting $50 million with the bank, and the bank is agreeing to loan $50 million, and you do the math there, 300,000 into 50 million, that makes for 167 loans that can be made. So yes, we're playing as much as we can on the margin here, and we're going to try and have as much impact as we can, but obviously there are thousands of foreclosed units that we need the market to absorb. This is just one of the things, in conjunction with the neighborhood stabilization program and the housing department's other programs that they have in place. And also, very, very important, the county's investment with the bank is not collateral for the loan, not in any way, shape, or form. When the employee sits down with the bank, that loan is between the bank and the employee, creditor and the borrower. And the bank is going to be doing their more traditional underwriting, and employees may be rejected. They may not get the loan. But that is between the employee and the bank, and we're simply, again, trying to facilitate this.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions? Yes.
Mr. Briley, you know I'm in commercial real estate myself. You were talking about you have about 69 or so prospects at any one time, or particularly at this time. Can you share with us why any of the prospects may in fact choose another jurisdiction, locating in a different locality in the other counties?
You mean different than Prince William?
Yeah.
Well, typically when we have, actually, I start to say a little bit, it's 51. We average 70, but currently it's 51. Bulk of them are on hold, and some of them are canceled. The experience is different. It depends. A lot of the times it is about the real estate costs. If we're competing with Stafford or Southern Fairfax or Loudoun County, and it's a local office expansion, or even a new division of a group, it's about the real estate and it's about the cost of the spreadsheets. Currently, right now, an example would be battles going on up and down Interstate 95 for some of the 10 and 15 and 20,000 square foot facilities that are subcontractors to Quantico Marine Corps Base. It's all about who's got the best deal.
I realize that, I noticed that an Italian tile manufacturer just recently chose Sterling for 64,000 square feet of lease space. Were we in the contention for that deal?
I don't know the deal.
Let me ask you, if I can, another one. How much business did the FBI bring to us in forms of offshoot leads that people located here because the FBI chose Prince William County?
How much, I'm sorry? What?
How much offshoot?
Offshoot?
Can we measure how much offshoot business was brought to the county, or how much income was brought to the county with the FBI relocating?
You mean restaurant sales and houses and?
Other businesses, contractors that would be doing.
Other businesses.
You were talking about, you were specifically pinpointing government as one of your main focal points to bring into the county?
Mhm.
Were there
Other government
or
opportunities?
private contractors
Or that wanted to do business with the FBI, with the FBI? Is that?
or with the county, that, I think
Did the
there's- I
FBI,
think
did the
you're right.
influence, maybe this is better, did the influence of the FBI coming to Prince William County assist in bringing other businesses, whether they be subcontractors or other contractors or businesses because of the FBI?
Well, I don't know that I can answer that fully. I think that we've had, Peterson Company has built that building. They competed with GSA, with 4 other developers. Peterson owns the building. The FBI are leasing it. It's a 20-year lease, and it'll go back to the FBI at the end of 20 years, as I understand it. So there's construction jobs. There's obviously there's synergies developing between George Mason University's Administration of Justice and Public Safety program and the FBI. The FBI are looking at adjunct faculty to teach at George Mason University, and George Mason is also looking at curriculum development as a result of the FBI. We have the George Mason University Biomedical Laboratory Facility that's under construction with the NIH right now, that there's been demonstrated interest from the FBI to be part of that in concert with the FBI Forensic Science Facility down at Quantico, the 500,000 square foot forensics center there. So there's a concentration of scientists that are working together. That what will evolve from that, I don't know. It's relatively new. The FBI have been in for 8 or 9 months now, and if there are supporting businesses, I'm sorry, Michelle, I don't exactly understand your question. I mean, are there office cleaners and suppliers to the FBI? I'm sure there are, but I don't have those numbers.
Okay. One of the other, yes, sir.
I have a question. For 40 years of professional experience, 36 of them, I had a perfect credit rating. I did everything on time. I had 4 homes, the last one of which I had for 19 years. A few years ago, due to some circumstances which are highly unusual, I lost all my income. I lost my house, I lost my car, I lost 90% of everything I own. I'm about to get rehired. There's a new administration coming in, and I'm not being blacklisted like I was. The probability is I'm going to be back up and have a decent income again. $250,000 a year is what I was doing at one point. Hopefully I'll be back up there. You said earlier that you had a foreclosure every 1 an hour. That's an awful lot of people that have had an awful lot of good record for a long time that need to start over again. We're giving these breaks to first-time home buyers. I've got a 36-year history of a good history. What do I do to get a home again? I've got after a foreclosure. What do I got to do to make be possible to get my stuff out of storage and move it back into a house?
We have answers for you. We have answers for you, let me tell you. First of all, the question would be, since we do have, if I could summarize a little bit and tell me if I'm off base, for somebody who has had a good credit rating and a good track record, who to come under some unusual circumstances, and the credit rating obviously suffers because of that, how does that person then recover and get back on track and into a home?
But after foreclosure and bankruptcy, because of the fall short on the...
I'm with you. I'm with you. First of all, I can tell you as a real estate broker, the rental market has been deluged with people who have either lost their homes, not been able to afford their homes, so they've done short sales. Their credit is not what the lenders like to see in the upper 600s as far as credit ratings. So those people are now starting over by renting. Rentals are very, very lucrative right now. I mean, they're just going like crazy. We have a lot of sellers who don't want to sell in a down market, so they're renting their homes out. Therefore, we have a good supply and demand within rentals. But as far as your question about what do you do to get back on track to buy a home, there are a lot of lenders who are looking up. You are not alone. You're amongst a huge number of people who have been hit by this situation and the economic downtrend. Lenders look at letters of explanation. I'm going to make this real basic. Letters of explanation. If you've had a bankruptcy or a foreclosure within 12 months, you may have to rent, get your credit back on track for 12 months, and a lender will look at getting a loan for you. It used to be 5 years. If you had a bankruptcy or you had a foreclosure, you had to wait 5 years to be able to buy again. Because you're part of a large segment of the population right now going through the same thing, we're finding the banks and mortgage companies are much more, and I don't want to say lenient, but understanding of the situation, so they look at the bigger picture. The 36 years of being on track with an unusual situation, medical bankruptcies and things like that. Lenders are working with people who have good track records, had a slip due to whatever circumstances, and we're helping homeowners write letters to get back on track. So there are plenty of options. Would you like to answer?
Yes, I'll add a little bit. And actually, the bright side, after 3 years, you're a first-time home buyer again.
Right.
And so all the programs that first-time home buyers have that HUD offers, 3 years without ownership of a home, or a member of a deed, then you're a first-time home buyer. Yes, 12 months is your credit history. The last 12 months is the most important. And so if you have a clear history the last 12 months, there are some lenders that will live to lend money to you. Bankruptcies, 24 months. I mean, your credit that basically.
I just saw one for 18 months.
Yes, you can basically recover. And we also do credit counseling, budget counseling. We also have financial literacy, and we'll cover all those items in the classes to help you get back on track.
Now, you may not get the best interest rate. The mortgage companies are compensating because you've got low risk, medium risk, and high risk. So you may have to have a little bit higher interest rate, but still people can buy a home if they've had problems in the past year to 2 years. Okay. Anything else?
Larry has some stuff on the outside.
Okay, Larry does have some information and brochures outside, and I can tell you also on the little commercial for Prince William County, they do have a couple of very good programs where they work with the county and with VHDA, the Virginia Housing Department Authority, as far as first-time home buyers, and the classes that they teach, which are a requirement for our first-time home buyers, the HAP program. And from personal experience, that helped my daughter buy her first home, and the classes were invaluable because in high school they don't teach you how to balance your checkbook and how to pay bills and mortgages, and this class she took through the county was a wonderful program. So there are county programs, there are state programs, and plenty of information is available. It's just sometimes maybe hard to find that information. Are there any other questions this evening? Yes, sir.
The city also has a housing trust fund that's oriented toward the same kind of program as the county. We recently received a $3.2 million grant from them for first mortgages. So
You're right, I apologize, I
there
forgot that. The Manassas
there are
Housing Trust
several-
Fund.
yeah, several programs available.
Anything else? Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, our speakers.